tonight he's free. Normally he plays with the Joe Branston Big Band at Cafe 290 every other Monday. They were there last Monday and they'll be there next Monday. And I'd like you to give me a round of applause and welcome. I know we can't hear, but I'll fake it.
I'm sure the crowd is going wild.
Yeah, they are. Mace, Hibbard. All right, Mace, thank you so much for coming in today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And you know what? I'm telling you, man, this is the first time I haven't heard this new release.
Well, why not?
Because it just came in the mail tonight.
Well, there you go.
And but I like what I hear, and this first piece that we started out. Well, the album is called "Time Gone By," and this is what, not even 3 months old, 2 months old.
It came out in the beginning of June.
Yeah.
So 2 months old.
2 months old. And the first piece that we heard, it was Indecision. And I looked over here on the back of the cover and saw the photo, and I recognized everybody there. And I said, hey, Mace, you got some of Atlanta's finest on here. You tell them who's on here.
I do have some of Atlanta's finest. Well, the core of the band has been the same since the last album, especially the rhythm section. On piano, the great Louis Hurvo. On bass, Mark Miller, and on drums, Justin Barnes. And since my last record, I've been lucky enough to have Melvin Jones on trumpet in the band.
Wow.
Yeah.
And,
wow is right.
And you know, it's such a funny thing. I was looking at something that WRFG did in 2001. It was the Paul Mitchell Community Jazz Awards.
Yeah.
And I looked at a young Melvin with Rio Negro.
Right.
And I said, man, you know, it's amazing how time goes by.
That's right.
It really is. So tell us something about this album. You know, what was the theme behind it? Did you do a theme? Or did you just select stuff that...
Yeah, I don't know if there's necessarily a theme behind the album, although it's a little weird that a lot of the titles have something to do with time. Obviously the title Time Gone By, and then there's Remembrance of Things Past, and there's a lot of the titles seem to have some sort of theme of time, but I didn't really think about that. Really how this album came about is that we've been playing these tunes as a band for probably 3 or 4 years. Some of the tunes are a little newer, but we, as opposed to the way a lot of albums are done where, you know, you're bringing in sort of new tunes for the session, these tunes have been worked out, you know, on the bandstand for the last few years. So if there's any sort of theme, I think it's just the band really, you know, we're really comfortable with the material on this album, I think.
And that works out real well.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there's no...
There was definitely a comfort level
Yeah.
in the studio that I think it certainly made me feel a lot more comfortable, and I think all the guys were a little more comfortable because, you know, we were really familiar with the material.
Mace, let's back up a little bit. Now, you grew up in Texas.
I grew up in Texas.
And Texas is known for a lot of stuff.
And it's all good.
And it's all musically, okay? And where did you grow up in Texas?
I grew up in Waco, Texas,
Uh-huh.
which is about, for those who don't know, it's about an hour and a half south of Dallas and an hour and a half north of Austin. So it's sort of right in the middle on the I-35 corridor.
And your household, man, what kind of music and what was your household like? I mean, besides the usual madness.
Well, yeah, there was a lot of music. My dad is a jazz trumpet player, and he was a college educator. He taught at the community college in Waco for over 30 years before he retired. He ran the commercial music department. The commercial music department is very much like a jazz department or any music department, except it specializes and focuses on getting musicians ready to actually work. So like there's a country ensemble and a rock ensemble, which you won't find in a lot of conservatories. So it's sort of geared much more for practical purposes. And then my mom is a music teacher, or was a music teacher. She's retired and sings and plays piano. And my sister's an opera singer. So there was never a shortage of
I
music.
see a setup here.
Yeah, there was a lot of music.
I bet.
I don't think I had a choice. It just
And good thing you did, man. You done well, And so, what prompted you to choose the instrument that you did? And I know that you didn't choose sax originally.
No, I started on piano when I was probably 4 or 5. I'm not exactly sure how old I was. And then I also did a lot of singing when I was a kid, in youth choirs, and then I sang in high school as well. I chose the saxophone. The story I tell is that I chose the saxophone because my dad told me that he didn't want me to play the saxophone because as a trumpet player, he doesn't like saxophones, and so I chose the saxophone. But, I don't know how much of that's true or not, but it's a good story at least.
Okay, and then, so did he provide lessons for you? I mean,
No,
since both
actually-
of your folks were musically inclined.
No, it was a little, I don't know if it's strange is the right word, but I didn't start playing jazz at all until my sophomore year in high school. I started the saxophone in the 6th grade, and so there was always jazz playing, whether we were in the car or, at home. And I honestly didn't like it or don't remember, having, any sort of connection to it. I was listening to Michael Jackson and whatever else was on the radio at that point. And then my sophomore year, my dad said it went from, Michael Jackson and whoever else to suddenly Charlie Parker was coming out of my room. And he never gave me any lessons per se. I took, some saxophone lessons from people around town, but largely whatever lessons I got from him were, he ran a jam session every Thursday night at a club in Waco. And so, the lessons were real world lessons where I got on stage and, I didn't have a book and he didn't tell me anything about the tunes. He just said, play whatever you think sounds good. And part of it was great because since he led the band, they couldn't tell me to get off stage. And, now that I'm an educator and a musician, I think that's probably the best way to learn how to play improvised music is you have to work on your ear and sort of thinking on your feet. So while we never took any lessons, the education was certainly there.
Wow. That's very interesting because I had a sax player last week.
Right.
And I I said, well, what about learning how to read as compared to learning how to play by ear?
Right.
Or do you recommend both, And
Well, you certainly need to be able to do both. Like I said, since I started on piano at such a young age and, starting band in the 6th grade, reading music was always not easy, but it came fairly naturally to me. So I feel lucky that I sort of had it both angles taken care of.
So after high school, what'd you do? Where'd you go?
I went to the University of Texas at Austin.
Majored in?
Music.
But of course.
My undergraduate degree is actually in classical saxophone because they didn't have a jazz degree at the time. And there's an incredible saxophone professor there named Harvey Patel.
Oh, yeah.
Who is world renowned for his saxophone playing and his teaching. And so I knew, at least going there, that I would learn how to play the saxophone. And the other reason I chose Austin, I was considering some other schools at the time, but I knew Austin had a music scene that was conducive to going and gigging, even at an early age. And I don't know if I was really thinking about it, but I knew that the best way to learn was by doing it, and while I got an incredible education at UT, I think the best education I got was playing hundreds and hundreds of blues and rock and country gigs and polka gigs, and basically whatever somebody would call me to do, I would play it.
Yeah.
And so, I felt like I was sort of getting 2 degrees at once.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, that is quite an experience. why don't we stop right here, and we'll take it after graduation.
Sure.
When we come back, we'll listen to another track from the new CD, which is called Time Gone By. And this is Mace Hibbard. If you're just tuning in, I'm Captain Mellow, and we're going to listen to this music.